Thank you for tuning in. This is Lance, your host of Strange Bites, where we take real science and wrap it up in a creative story and serve it in 15 minutes or less. If you're enjoying the show, please hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Give me a follow on social media. And now, let's jump into the next bite. Episode 40 is about what happens inside your head when the lights go out under general anesthesia. Spoiler. Your brain doesn't just power down like an old laptop. One very special part of it keeps right on working, sorting out words by meaning, figuring out grammar, and even guessing what word is coming next in the story. All while you're completely unconscious and remember nothing. So dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's slip into the operating room together. Imagine you're in a hospital in Houston, Texas. You have epilepsy that medication can't control. So today, surgeons are going to remove a small piece of brain tissue that's causing the seizures. You're nervous, but hopeful. The anesthesiologist smiles and says, "Okay, we're going to start the medicine now. Just breathe normally and count backward from 10. You get to 7, maybe 6, and then nothing. You are gone. No dreams you'll remember, no awareness. For the next few hours, your body lies perfectly still on the table, while surgeons work with incredible precision. But here's the secret the surgeons and a special team of neuroscientists already know. Your brain wasn't entirely asleep. A group of researchers led by Dr. Samir Seth and Dr. Benjamin Hayden at Baylor College of Medicine had a wild idea. They wanted to listen, really listen, to individual brain cells while a person was under full surgical anesthesia. Not with the usual sticky electrodes on the scalp, but with something far more powerful. They used tiny hair-thin probes called neuropixels. Imagine a miniature comb with thousands of microscopic sensors along its teeth. When gently placed into the brain during surgery, these sensors can hear the electrical spikes of single neurons firing, the brain's own language of on-off signals. It's like going from listening to the whole orchestra through a wall to sticking a microphone right next to one of the violin strings. The target? A curved seahorse-shaped structure deep inside the brain called the hippocampus. You've probably heard of it because it helps turn short-term experiences into long-term memories. But it also helps us understand context and meaning. Exactly the kind of sophisticated work you might think only happens when you're wide awake. The patients were kept under propofol, the milky white anesthesia drug that works fast and wears off relatively quickly. Doctors watched a monitor called the BIS, bispectral index, to make sure the patient stayed in the perfect lights out zone, deep enough for surgery, but not so deep that the brain completely flatlines. While the patients were out cold, the researchers quietly played two very different soundtracks through headphones. First came simple musical beeps, mostly ordinary tones. Every so often, a completely different tone would sneak in, like a wrong note in a song. Even though the person had no idea any sound was playing, the hippocampus cells noticed. Certain neurons fired more strongly when the odd tone appeared. And here's the weird part. Over the course of about 10 minutes, the brain got better at spotting the odd tones. The responses grew stronger. The unconscious hippocampus was learning and adapting on its own. Scientists call this plasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience. It was happening without any conscious participation. Then came the really weird experiment. The team played real spoken stories, narrative podcast-style tales full of characters, emotion, and plot twists, the kind of thing you might listen to on a long drive. Full sentences, natural speech, nothing simplified. The hippocampus didn't just register sound is happening, it started understanding in its own quiet way. Using the precise firing patterns of hundreds of individual neurons, the researchers could see the brain sorting words by their jobs in the sentence. Some cells responded more when the word was a noun. Others lit up for verbs. Still others for adjectives. It was as if tiny librarians inside the hippocampus were quietly filing every word into the correct drawer. Noun drawer, verb drawer, adjective drawer. Even more astonishing, the brain was playing a real-time game of prediction. By looking at the pattern of activity right before a new word arrived, the scientists could often guess what the next word was likely to be. The hippocampus was using everything it had already heard to anticipate what should come next. Exactly like your phone suggests the next word when you're texting, or how large language models predict what you might say. They measured this using something called semantic embeddings, a mathematical way of mapping how words relate in meaning space. In that invisible map, cat sits close to dog because they share meaning. Cat sits far away from car. The neurons respect those invisible distances. They were processing meaning, not just sound. And the patients? When they woke up hours later, they remembered nothing. No stories, no beeps, no sense that anyone had been talking to them. The anesthesia had done its job perfectly, blocking the global broadcast of information that creates conscious experience and formations of lasting memories. But the sophisticated processing had still occurred. This wasn't the first hint that the brain keeps working under anesthesia. Earlier studies using brain scanners has shown the basic sound processing in temporal lobes can survive light or moderate sedation. Some electrical signals linked to simple word recognition had been spotted before. But this 2026 study, published in the journal Nature, was the first time scientists had recorded directly from single neurons in the human hippocampus during full surgical unconsciousness, and watched it do genuinely complex language work, semantic categorization, grammatical awareness, and forward prediction. So how do we make sense of a brain that can understand stories without anyone being home to hear them? On a practical level, it shows just how layered and resilient our biology is. Consciousness, the bright spotlight of awareness we usually think of as me, is only one mode the brain operates in. Beneath it runs a whole underground network of processing that can keep sorting, predicting, and learning even when the spotlight is off. What does it actually mean to understand something? If a system can categorize words by meaning, recognize grammatical roles, and anticipate what comes next, all without any subjective feeling or memory, is that understanding? Or is true understanding something that only appears when awareness joins the computation? Many theories of consciousness suggest that awareness happens when information gets broadcast widely across the brain, so different regions can share it and act on it together. In anesthesia, the global sharing gets disrupted. Local pockets of sophisticated work can still happen, like the hippocampus running its quiet library, but the rest of the system never gets the memo, so the you never experiences it. That raises beautiful and slightly unsettling questions about who we are. If parts of your brain can process language and meaning without your awareness, then the boundary between you and not you is blurrier than we like to admit. The unconscious isn't just a dark basement where repressed memories hide. It's an active, intelligent workspace that's always running sophisticated software. So what does this mean for the future? Well, in medicine, it could lead to smarter ways to monitor anesthesia. Right now, we mostly watch vital signals and the BIS number. Someday, we might also listen for these deeper processing signals and adjust the drugs in real time to make sure nothing unwanted is slipping through. It opens new doors for brain-computer interfaces. If we can decode rich semantic and predictive signals from the hippocampus even in unconscious states, imagine what we might do for people who can't speak because of stroke, injury, or disorders of consciousness. We might one day help them communicate by tapping into the very systems that are still quietly listening and organizing the world. For people in comas or vegetative states, this research suggests we should never assume the lights are completely out. Some parts of the brain may still be processing language and meaning. That changes how we talk to them, what kind of stimulation we try, and how we think about their inner experience. On a bigger, stranger level, it blurs the line between biological brains and artificial ones. Large language models predict the next word constantly, without any inner experience. Now we know biological brains can do sophisticated versions of the same thing while unconscious. So what exactly is consciousness? If so much clever work can happen without it, maybe consciousness is less about raw intelligence and more about something like integration flexibility, or the ability to report and reflect on what we know. And then we have the quiet, ethical whisper. Be mindful of what you say around unconscious people. Their brains might still be cataloging words and meanings even if they'll never consciously remember. It doesn't mean they're awake in any way we usually mean, but it does mean the brain is never entirely off duty. In the end, this discovery doesn't diminish consciousness. It makes it more mysterious and more precious. It shows us that the aware, experiencing self is just the visible tip of an enormous computational iceberg. Under the surface, even when we are gone to the world, the ancient seahorse in our heads keeps quietly reading the story, filing the words, and wondering what might happen on the next page. So the next time you're counting backward from 10, remember, somewhere deep inside, a part of you might still be listening and already guessing what comes next. That's it for today's bite. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Give me a follow on social media. And until next time, stay strange and question everything.